And the last piece now that we're going to look at for the normal distributions, we want to talk about percentiles. We want to work a little bit with percentiles. Now, let's go back to the wine example. I want to find the 98th percentile for the force required to open a wine bottle. Based on x, I'm still going to use x as my random variable for the number of newtons required to open a wine bottle, being distributed normal with a mean of 305 and a variance of 28 squared. Now, I want to think about this for a second. I want to start drawing a picture. If I want the 98th percentile, the mean's 305. Someplace up here, I'm going to have 0.02 to the right and 0.98 to the left. That's what it means to have the 98th percentile. Well, you could fiddle with this. Do normal CDF, lower bound negative e to 999, upper bound guess, with a mean of 305 and a standard deviation 28, and then adjust it and guess again, and adjust it, and guess again, and get close to it. Or you can use the idea of the inverse normal. If you remember from algebra, or possibly pre-calculus, the idea of the inverse function, a function like f of x equals something, a function of x takes a value in the domain and maps it to the range. Well, the inverse function says, all right, here's a value in the range. I'm going to map it back. I'm going to connect it back to the domain, the original value that got me there to begin with. Well, there's some value here, some value of x, that if I said what's the probability of being less than or equal to x, it would give me 0.98. So rather than going through trial and error trying to find it, which could be a long darn time, we'll just use the inverse function. And the command for that on your calculator is just inverse, let's try this again, inverse norm. And you put in the percentage as a decimal, the mean, and the standard deviation. The percentage is going to be 0.98. So for our case, we'd use inverse norm. Give myself a little room here. 0.98. The mean was 305, and the standard deviation was 28. That will actually tell me the value right here. That gave me 98% below, 2% above, which is the 98th percentile. Let's jump to a calculator and take a look at that. If I go to distribution, normal CDF, inverse norm, I want 0.98. My mean's 305, standard deviation is 28. That's 362.5050. Now, if I go to second distribution, normal CDF, go from negative infinity up to 362.5050. The mean is 305. Standard deviation is 28. Within rounding, this should give me 98. There it is, 0.9800. So my 98th percentile is 362.5050. This normal CDF is not part of the percentile process. I was just trying to convince you that what I was doing was actually real. So I would say that this equals 362.5050. So I come back and say P98 equals 362.5050. That's it. That's how easy it is to find a percentile using the normal distribution. It's a lot easier than it was back when we did it several chapters ago with discrete data, when we actually had the numbers, had to sort them, take n times 0.98 and do all that. This is much, much easier. Okay, that's it. That's all we will be doing with the normal distribution.